A BBQ turned nightmare. My daughter's note said call 911 at our Tahoe lake house. It was supposed to be one of those golden summer evenings, the kind you see in car commercials with families laughing around a grill. The sun was sinking behind the pines at Lake Tahoe, casting this warm orange glow over the water. I had driven 3 hours from San Francisco, my old Toyota rattling the whole way, to get to my parents' vacation house in Incline Village. The house was this 2-story cedar thing, all creaky decks and windows that never quite shut right. It smelled like pine needles and charcoal, and from the backyard you could hear the lake lapping against the shore. My mom, Carol, had strung fairy lights across the patio, like we were at some fancy winery instead of a house, with mismatched lawn chairs and a fridge that hummed too loud. I am Sarah Mitchell, by the way. 38, single mom, marketing manager at a tech startup in the city. I spend my days tweaking ad campaigns and pretending I know what optimize for ROI really means. I had packed a bottle of Napa Valley Rosé for the weekend, thinking it would make me look like I had my life together. Truth is, I was exhausted. 3 hours on I-80 with a playlist of 90s pop and a backseat full of Emma's art supplies, her sketchbooks, those fancy pencils she loves, had me dreaming of a nap. But I wanted to see my daughter. Emma had been staying with my parents for a couple weeks, ever since her grandma Ellen passed. I thought the lake air would do her good. I thought I was being a good mom. The BBQ was in full swing when I pulled up. Mom was fussing over a tray of burger patties, her apron tied too tight like she was auditioning for a cooking show. My dad, Tom, was flipping steaks, telling some story about the time he caught a trout this big in the lake. My sister, Rachel, was glued to her phone, probably editing a photo for her 30,000 Instagram followers. She's an influencer, whatever that means. Something about yoga retreats and smoothie bowls. And then there was this guy, Mark, who Mom introduced as an old family friend. I did not remember him. He had a slick smile, like a car salesman, and kept refilling everyone's beer. I nodded politely, because that is what you do when you are a woman and someone is trying too hard to be charming. Emma was there, sitting at the picnic table, her hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands. She is 17, all lanky limbs and quiet eyes, with a habit of doodling on her sneakers when she is nervous. She looked thinner than when I had last seen her face pale under her messy bun. Her eyes were puffy, like she had been crying, but when she saw me, she managed a small smile. I hugged her, and she held on a second too long, her head against my shoulder. "You okay, kiddo?" I asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She nodded, but her hands were fidgeting with the drawstrings of her hoodie. I should have pushed harder. I did not. I told myself she was just grieving Ellen. My mom's mom, Ellen, had been Emma's rock, taking her camping, teaching her to paint wildflowers. When Ellen died a month ago, Emma stopped talking much. I thought it was normal. I thought wrong. We sat down to eat. The table was covered with a checkered cloth, weighed down with bowls of potato salad and coleslaw that tasted like it came from a deli. Dad raised his beer for a toast, something about family and making memories. Everyone laughed, even me, though I was still watching Emma out of the corner of my eye. She was picking at her burger, not eating, her shoulders hunched like she was trying to disappear. Rachel was snapping photos of her plate, muttering about aesthetic. Mark kept glancing at me, and I smiled back because I did not know what else to do. I hate that about myself sometimes, smiling when I am uneasy, like it is my job to keep things smooth. Then it happened. Dad was mid-sentence, waving his beer bottle, when I felt something brush my hand under the table. Emma's fingers, cold and trembling, pressed a folded piece of paper into my palm. I froze. She did not look at me, just stared at her plate, her jaw tight. I unfolded the paper under the table, my heart thudding. 2 words scrawled in her messy handwriting: "Call 911 now." My stomach dropped. I looked at her again, but she was still, like she had not just handed me a bomb. Her hands were shaking, though, curled around her napkin. I wanted to grab her, ask what was wrong, but something in her face, fear maybe, kept me quiet. I do not know why I did not say anything. Maybe I was scared of looking stupid. Maybe I did not want to ruin the night. That is how my Thursday turned into a nightmare, right there at a picnic table with fairy lights twinkling above us. I keep thinking about that moment, the paper in my hand, Emma's shaky fingers. I should have done something right then, grabbed her, run to the car, anything. But I just sat there, my heart pounding, pretending to care about the potato salad. I do not know why I froze. Maybe because I have spent my whole life trying to keep things calm, especially around my family. Growing up, it was always about keeping the peace, not making waves. That is probably why I let Emma stay with my parents in the first place. I thought it would help her. I thought they would help her. Emma had been struggling since her grandma Ellen died. Ellen was my mom's mom. This tiny woman with a laugh like wind chimes and a knack for painting wildflowers that looked alive on the canvas. She lived in a little bungalow in Truckee, not far from Tahoe, with a porch swing and a garden full of lavender. Emma spent every summer there, trailing after Ellen with a sketchbook, learning to mix colors or pitch a tent in the backyard. Ellen called her my little artist, and Emma would beam, her shy smile lighting up. When Ellen passed a month ago, heart failure, quick and quiet, it broke something in Emma. She stopped drawing, stopped texting her friends. She would just curl up on the couch in our San Francisco apartment, staring at the ceiling. Our place is small, a one-bedroom with scuffed hardwood and a kitchen counter always cluttered with my coffee mugs and her art supplies. I would come home from work, see her like that, and feel so helpless. I'm supposed to fix things for her. That is my job, right? So when my mom called and suggested Emma stay at the lake house for a couple weeks, I said yes. God, I feel so stupid now. Mom said the fresh air would do her good, that she and Dad missed her. They have had that house in Incline Village forever, since I was a kid. It is not fancy, despite what Mom's fairy lights might suggest. Just a cedar cabin with a sagging deck and a living room full of old board games and faded plaid cushions. The kind of place where you smell wood smoke even in summer. I used to love it as a kid, running down to the lake with a popsicle, but it always felt like my parents' stage. They would play the perfect hosts, Dad grilling, Mom pouring lemonade, but it was like they were performing for an audience that was not me. My parents, Carol and Tom, are not bad people. I need to say that. They are just distant. Growing up, I always felt like I was auditioning for their attention. Mom would pin my report cards on the fridge, but she would gush over Rachel's messy finger paintings like they belonged in a gallery. Rachel, my younger sister, could do no wrong. She would spill juice, cry over a broken toy, and they would laugh. Call her our little tornado. I would stay up late studying, trying to make them notice me, but it was like I was invisible unless I was useful. Like when I set the table or offered to clean the grill. Even now, at 38, I catch myself doing it, bringing that damn bottle of rosé, hoping Mom would say something nice. She did not, by the way. She just nodded and put it in the fridge. Rachel is different now, but not really. She is 34, all glossy hair and yoga poses, living for her Instagram grid. She rents a condo in Reno and drives up to the lake house whenever Mom guilts her into it. I do not think she even noticed Emma was quieter than usual. She was too busy posting stories of the sunset, probably with some caption about lake vibes. I do not know why that bugs me so much. Maybe because I wanted her to be the cool aunt, the one who would take Emma shopping or ask about her art. Instead, she is just Rachel. Ellen was the one who really saw Emma. She would mail her art books with little notes in the margins, or show up to her school art shows with a thermos of hot cocoa. When Ellen died, she left Emma everything, her savings, the proceeds from selling her tech startup years ago. I did not know how much it was at the time, just that it was a lot. My parents knew, though. They never said it outright, but I could tell from the way Mom kept mentioning Ellen's generosity on the phone, her voice too sweet, like she was selling something. I should have caught that. I should have asked why they were so eager to have Emma stay. But I was so tired. Work was killing me. 12-hour days of meetings and spreadsheets, and I thought they were trying to help. They said Emma looked pale, that she needed rest. I believed them. I drove her up to Tahoe, dropped her off with her sketchbooks and that old leather jacket she loves, the one with paint stains on the cuffs. She hugged me goodbye, and I told her to call if she needed me. She said she would. She did not. Looking back, I keep replaying those phone calls. I would call her every couple days, usually after work, sitting on my couch with a glass of wine. She always sounded tired, her voice small, like she was talking from underwater. "I am fine, Mom," she would say. "Just, sad." I thought it was grief. I told myself I could fix sad. I asked if she wanted me to come up for a weekend, and she said, "Maybe." My parents were not thrilled when I suggested it. Mom said, "Oh, Sarah, let her settle in. She's just processing." I did not push. Why did I not push? I keep asking myself that even now, sitting here telling you this. I thought I was giving her space. I thought I was being a good daughter, trusting my parents. That was my mistake. That piece of paper was burning a hole in my hand. Call 911, now. Emma's handwriting, all jagged and hurried, like she had written it in a panic. I kept stealing glances at her, but she would not look at me. She just sat there, picking at her burger, her hoodie sleeves pulled down like a shield. Her hands were trembling, though, and I could see her knee bouncing under the table. My chest felt tight, like I could not get enough air. What was going on? Was she serious? Was this some kind of prank? No, Emma does not do pranks, not like this. I wanted to grab her, pull her outside, ask her what was wrong, but everyone was watching. Mom with her perfect smile, Dad waving his beer, Rachel scrolling her phone, and Mark, that guy with the slick grin, kept looking at me like he was waiting for something. I do not know why I did not just stand up and leave. I think I was scared of being wrong, of making a scene. I have always been so good at keeping things together. I folded the paper and slid it into my jeans pocket, my fingers clumsy. "Everything okay, Sarah?" Mom asked, her voice all honey, like she was checking on a guest at one of her charity luncheons. I forced a laugh too loud and said, "Yeah, just the coleslaw's a bit tangy." They chuckled, even Mark, and Dad made some joke about my city taste buds. I laughed along, but my hands felt numb, like they belonged to someone else. I could not stop thinking about Emma's face, the way her eyes looked glassy, like she was holding back tears. I should have known something was wrong. I should have seen it, but I was sitting there, smiling like an idiot, because that is what I do when I am scared. I smile, and I wait for someone else to fix it. I needed to get out of there. "Mind if I use the bathroom?" I said, standing up, grabbing my purse like it was a lifeline. Mom waved a hand toward the house. Her nails painted that coral shade she loves. "Of course, honey, you know where it is." I walked inside, my sandals clicking on the hardwood, the fairy lights outside fading behind me. The bathroom was down a narrow hall, past a shelf of old fishing trophies and a faded photo of me and Rachel as kids, gap-toothed and sunburned. The door stuck, same as always, and I had to shove it with my shoulder. I locked it behind me and sank onto the closed toilet lid, my purse in my lap. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely unzip it. I pulled out my phone, fumbled the passcode twice, and stared at the screen. Should I call my best friend, Jen? My ex, Mike? No, that was stupid. Emma wrote 911. That is what I had to do. I dialed, my thumb hesitating over the call button. What if this was a mistake? What if Emma was just upset, overreacting? I did not want to be the mom who called the cops on her own family for nothing. But her handwriting, those words, they were screaming at me. I pressed call. The dispatcher answered in seconds, her voice calm like she was asking for my coffee order. "Emergency services, what is your location?" I whispered the address. 127 Pineview Drive, Incline Village. My voice cracking on the street name. "My daughter," I said, keeping my voice low. She gave me a note under the table. It says, "Call 911, now." She looks scared. She is staying here with my parents. I am just visiting. I do not know what is wrong, but I think she is in danger. The words felt wrong, like I was reading a script for someone else's life. The dispatcher asked my name, how many people were in the house, if anyone was hurt. I do not know, I said over and over. She has been quiet lately, grieving her grandma. She looks not right. Please, just come. They said officers were on the way. I hung up, my hands sweaty, and just sat there, trying to breathe. The bathroom smelled like lavender air freshener and mildew, and the sink dripped, slow and steady like a clock ticking. Now what? I could not just stay in here, hiding like a coward. I had to go back out there, sit at that table with my family, with Mark, with whatever was making Emma so scared. I splashed water on my face, looked in the mirror. My mascara was smudged, and my hair was a mess from the drive. I looked like someone who did not have a clue. I shoved my phone in my purse, unlocked the door, and walked back to the patio. The fairy lights were still twinkling, the music still playing, some country song about back roads. Everyone was eating dessert now, slices of strawberry shortcake on paper plates. Emma was holding a fork, not eating, her eyes fixed on the table. I sat down, grabbed my beer, and held it like it could anchor me. Mom smiled. "Feeling better?" she asked. I nodded, my throat too dry to speak. I was terrified, but I kept smiling, because that is what I do. I smile and I pretend everything is fine. I do not know how I got through those next 20 minutes. Dad was telling another fishing story, something about a boat he almost flipped. Rachel was showing Mark a photo on her phone, probably one of her yoga retreats. Mark laughed, but his eyes kept darting to Emma, then to me. I could feel my pulse in my ears, loud and fast. I kept checking my watch, willing the police to hurry. Emma was so still, like she was afraid to move. I wanted to reach for her hand, but I did not. I was scared of tipping them off, whoever them was. My own family? That sounded crazy. But Emma's note was not crazy. Her fear was not crazy. I kept thinking about her sketchbooks, the ones she had not touched since Ellen died. She used to draw every day. Trees, lakes, Ellen's wildflowers. Now she was sitting here asking for help, and I was just waiting. The knock came when Dad was scooping more shortcake onto his plate. A sharp, heavy rap at the front door, cutting through the music. Everyone froze. Mom tilted her head, her coral nails tapping her glass. Rachel looked up from her phone, confused. Mark stood halfway, then sat back down, his smile gone. Emma did not move, but I saw her shoulders relax, just a fraction. "I will get it," I said, my voice too high, like I was auditioning for calm. I walked to the front door, my sandals slipping on the hardwood. 2 officers stood on the porch, a man and a woman, their radios crackling softly. No smiles, just business. "Ma'am," the male officer said, "we got a call from this address." I swallowed, my mouth dry. "I called," I said. "It is my daughter. She gave me a note, said to call 911. She is here at the table. Something is wrong. She will not say it out loud, but something is not right." They nodded, no questions, just stepped inside. The female officer asked to speak with Emma alone. I pointed to the patio, my hand shaking. "She's out there." The male officer asked me to step outside with him, so I followed, shutting the door behind me. The night air was cool, the lake smell sharp and clean. I stood on the porch, clutching my purse, watching the shadows of the pines sway. I kept thinking about Ellen, how she would have known what to do. She always knew, I did not. I was just standing there, waiting, hoping I had not made a mistake, hoping I was not too late. The officers were inside for maybe 10 minutes. I checked my phone a dozen times, the screen blurring. I thought about Emma's jacket, the one with paint stains, hanging in her room here. I thought about Mom's smile, too perfect, and the way Mark kept watching us. I thought about how I should have asked Emma more questions, called her more, driven up sooner. When the door opened, I turned. Emma was standing next to the female officer, her face pale as chalk, but she was talking. Her voice was quiet but clear, like she had been holding it in too long. The male officer waved me over. I stepped inside. my heart in my throat. Emma looked at me, her eyes wet, and said, "Grandma Ellen left everything to me, but they did not tell me. They wanted me to sign it away." I blinked, trying to process. The female officer asked, "What kind of papers?" Emma's voice cracked. "I do not know. Something about releasing my inheritance. They said it was for my own good, that I was too young." She pointed at Mark. "He was here, talking to Grandma and Grandpa. He said it would simplify things." The officer nodded, her face unreadable. Emma kept going, her words spilling out. "They took my phone. They locked me in the basement room at night, said it was to help me sleep. I think they put something in my orange juice. I kept feeling so tired, like I could not think straight." The room felt smaller, the air too thick. The officers exchanged a glance. The male officer stepped into the hall, speaking quietly into his radio. They brought everyone inside: Mom, Dad, Rachel, Mark. No one was smiling now. Mom stood, her hands clasped tight. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice sharp. "Emma's been grieving. She's confused." Dad raised his hands like he was calming a crowd. "We were just trying to help her. She has not been herself." Rachel crossed her arms, muttering, "She is making this up. She has been weird since the funeral." Mark said nothing, his face blank, but I saw his jaw twitch. The female officer said, "We need to search the property." Mom laughed, a brittle sound. "You cannot be serious." "Based on what? Her imagination?" The officer did not blink. "We have a report and a statement. That is enough." They started in the kitchen, opening drawers, checking cabinets. I stood by Emma, my arm around her. She was shaking, her hoodie damp with sweat. It took maybe 15 minutes. The male officer came back holding a plastic bag with a handful of small white pills, no label, tucked under a box of cereal. He radioed for testing. Then they checked the guest room, Mark's room. They found a folder of papers, documents with Emma's name, beneficiary release, all typed and stapled, but unsigned. In the basement, there was a room I had never seen, with a metal bolt on the outside of the door. A twin bed, a lamp, Emma's jacket folded neatly on a chair. Her sketchbook was there, open to a half-finished drawing of a wildflower. Her necklace, the one Ellen gave her, was on the bedside table. Upstairs, in a locked cabinet in the laundry room, they found her phone and wallet. I could not breathe. Mom was crying now, saying it was a misunderstanding, that they were protecting Emma. Dad kept saying he did not know about any pills. Rachel looked at her phone, like it could save her. Mark just stared at the floor. The officers did not ask for explanations. They handcuffed Mark first, then Mom, Dad, and Rachel. I held Emma's hand as they were led out, her fingers cold in mine. When the ambulance came to check her vitals, I climbed in with her, sitting beside her as the paramedic took her pulse. She looked so small, curled up in that hoodie, her eyes half closed. "Why did you not tell me?" I whispered, brushing her hair back. She did not open her eyes. "I was scared you would not believe me." That hurt more than anything, because she was right. I almost did not. I do not remember much about the drive to the hospital that night. The ambulance lights were flashing, red and blue against the dark pines, and Emma was curled up on the stretcher, her hoodie too big for her. I sat beside her, holding her hand, trying to keep my voice steady while the paramedic checked her vitals. She was okay, physically. Her pulse was fine, no signs of overdose, but the way she looked at me, like she was waiting for me to say it was all a dream, broke my heart. I kept thinking about what she said. I was scared you would not believe me. I wanted to tell her I would always believe her, but the words stuck in my throat. I was not sure I deserved her trust. I had let her stay with them. I had missed the signs. Her quiet phone calls, her tired voice, the way she hugged me too tight when I arrived. I should have known, but I did not. The weeks after that night were a blur. The police took statements, first from Emma, then me. We sat in a small room at the Incline Village station with fluorescent lights that buzzed and a coffee machine that smelled like burned grounds. Emma told them everything, how Mom and Dad had been pushing her to sign papers, saying it was for her future, how Mark showed up with a briefcase and a smile, talking about streamlining Ellen's estate, how they took her phone and locked her in that basement room, saying it was to help her rest. She said the orange juice tasted bitter sometimes, and she would wake up feeling like her head was full of fog. I listened, my hands clenched under the table, trying not to cry. I wanted to be strong for her, but I was so angry. At them, at myself. How could my own parents do this? How could I not see it? The trial came a few months later in Reno. The courthouse was all gray stone and high ceilings, with a clerk who chewed gum too loud. I sat in the gallery, Emma beside me, her nails bitten to the quick. She wore Ellen's necklace, a silver chain with a tiny wildflower pendant, like it could keep her steady. The evidence was damning. The pills, identified as low-dose sedatives, hidden in the kitchen, the unsigned documents with Emma's name found in Mark's room, her phone and wallet locked in that cabinet. The basement room was the worst, clean, almost cozy, but that bolt on the door said everything. Mom and Dad tried to explain it away. Mom said they were protecting Emma, that she was unstable after Ellen's death. Dad said he thought the room was just for storage, that he did not know about the pills. I watched them, sitting there in their pressed clothes, and I saw something I had not noticed before. Fear. Not of jail, but of losing control. They had always cared about appearances. Mom with her charity boards, Dad with his golf buddies. Emma's inheritance, millions from Ellen's tech startup, was a prize they could not resist, but I think part of them felt guilty too. Mom's hands shook when she testified, and Dad would not look at me. I wanted to believe they regretted it, but I was not sure. I'm still not sure. Rachel was different. She cried in court, said she did not know the full plan, that she just went along because Mom said it was best. She had always been the favorite, the one who could do no wrong, and I think she genuinely believed she was helping. It made me hate her a little less, but not much. Mark was the coldest. He admitted to drafting the papers, said it was just business, that Mom and Dad had promised him a cut. He had debts, he said, from a failed investment firm in Vegas. His calm voice made my skin crawl, like he was reading a grocery list instead of confessing to fraud. The jury did not take long. Mom and Dad got 5 years each for unlawful confinement and attempted fraud. Rachel got 1 year for conspiracy, served 6 months in the end. Mark got 7 years, and they revoked his financial advisor license. It did not feel like justice, not really. It felt like air, like I could finally breathe, but the weight was still there. Emma's inheritance came through a few weeks after the sentencing. We met with a lawyer in Reno, a kind woman with gray hair and a cluttered office full of legal books and a dying fern. She handed Emma a folder and said, "It is yours now." The number was bigger than I expected, enough for college, art school, a house, a life. Emma just nodded, clutching Ellen's necklace. When we got back to our hotel, she cried, not for the money, but because she felt safe for the first time in months. I held her, and I cried too, because I had almost lost her. I keep thinking about that, how close I came to failing her. I do not know if I will ever forgive myself for that. We left San Francisco a month later. I could not stay in that apartment anymore, with its thin walls and the memories of those phone calls. I quit my job. Marketing was killing me anyway. All those late nights tweaking ads for apps no one used. We moved to Portland, Oregon, to a small rental near the Willamette River. It is a 2-bedroom with hardwood floors and a bay window where Emma sets up her easel. The river is right outside, sparkling on good days, and the neighbors are nosy but kind, always waving when we walk by. Emma started painting again, mostly wildflowers like Ellen taught her. She still checks the locks every night, sometimes twice, and I catch her staring out the window like she is waiting for someone to show up. But she smiles more now, Real smiles, not the ones she faked at that BBQ. She enrolled in an art program at a community college, and she talks about maybe studying abroad one day, maybe Florence, where the light is different. I work from home now, freelance writing for small businesses. It is less money, but I like the quiet, the way I can hear the river while I type. I lock the doors too, more than I used to. I keep waiting for Mom to call or for Rachel to send one of her vague apology texts, but they have not. Last week, I found a letter from Mom in the mailbox, postmarked from prison. She said she was sorry, that she only wanted what was best. I did not show it to Emma. I tore it up and threw it in the trash, but I felt sick after, like I had betrayed her somehow. I do not know why I feel that way. They hurt my daughter. They do not deserve my guilt. But they are still my family, and that messes with my head. I do not know how to untangle that. Emma is healing, I think. She painted a picture of the lake the other day, not Tahoe, but something softer with pinks and blues. She hung it in our living room above the couch. I look at it sometimes and think about Ellen, how she would be proud. I wish I could tell her I am trying. I wish I could tell her I am sorry for not seeing it sooner. I wish a lot of things, but mostly, I'm just glad Emma is here, safe, with her paintbrushes and her wildflower necklace and her quiet, stubborn strength. Sometimes I sit on our couch in Portland, the one with the lumpy cushions and a throw blanket that smells like lavender, and I try to make sense of it all. The new apartment helps with its big window overlooking the Willamette River, where the water catches the light in a way that feels hopeful. But I still wake up some nights, checking the locks, listening for sounds that are not there. I keep thinking about that BBQ, the fairy lights, Emma's shaky handwriting on that scrap of paper. Call 911, now. I did what she asked, but I cannot stop wondering if I could have done more, seen more sooner. I know that sounds like I am fishing for reassurance, but it is not that. It is just, I do not know. Being a mom feels like guessing half the time, and I guessed wrong for too long. I look at Emma now and I see her trying. She is stronger than I give her credit for. She spends hours at her easel by the window, painting wildflowers or sometimes just smudges of color, like she's working something out. Her art program started last month, and she comes home with paint on her jeans, talking about perspective and light in a way that reminds me of Ellen. She still wears that wildflower necklace, the silver one Ellen gave her for her 16th birthday, and she touches it when she is nervous, like it holds her together. But there are moments when I catch her staring at the door, her shoulders tense, like she is waiting for Mom or Dad to walk through. I do not know how to fix that. I do not know if I can. I tell her we are safe, that the locks are new, that the court orders are in place. She nods, but her eyes say she is not sure. I get it. I am not sure either. I think a lot about what family means, what it is supposed to mean. Growing up, I thought family was about showing up, bringing the rosé, keeping the peace. My parents were good at that part, the smiles, the BBQs, the Christmas cards with matching sweaters, but they were not good at the real stuff, the part where you listen, where you put someone else first. I do not think they meant to hurt Emma, not at first. Mom probably told herself she was protecting her, keeping her from bad decisions with all that money. Dad probably thought he was just following Mom's lead, like always. Rachel? I do not know. She was so caught up in her own world, her likes and followers, that she did not see what was happening. And Mark, he was in it for the cash, but I bet he justified it, told himself it was just a job. They all had their reasons, their little stories to make it okay. That is what scares me most. Not that they did it, but that they thought it was fine, that they could smile at me across the table while Emma was falling apart. I made a promise to myself after that night, sitting in the ambulance with Emma's hand in mine. I swore she would never feel like I did growing up, like she had to earn my love. I am trying to keep that promise. I listen when she talks, even when it is just about paint colors or a bad day at school. I ask about her dreams, the ones she used to tell Ellen about, painting in Italy, maybe, or opening a little gallery. I tell her I love her, even when she rolls her eyes and says, "I know, Mom," but I still mess up. Last week, I snapped at her for leaving dishes in the sink, and I saw her flinch like she thought I was mad at her, not the mess. I apologized, but it felt hollow. I do not want her to be afraid of me. I do not want her to be afraid of anything, but I know that is not how it works. I am learning, though. I am learning that love is not about being perfect or having all the answers. It is about showing up, even when you are scared, even when you do not know what to say. It is about calling 911 when your daughter hands you a note, even if your hands are shaking and your heart says it cannot be true. I did that, at least. I called. And maybe that is enough, or maybe it is not. I keep going back to that moment, the paper in my hand, the lake outside, the way Emma looked at me like I was her only chance. I do not know if I was too late or just in time. I do not know if I failed her or saved her. Maybe it is both. I want to hear what you think because I am still figuring it out. Drop a comment below. Let me know. Was I wrong to miss the signs? Or did I do the right thing, even if it took too long? And if you have ever had to hide your fear at a family dinner, pretending everything is fine while your world is crumbling, you are not alone. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe, maybe tap that bell. I will be here, trying to make sense of it all, one story at a time,